incredible community and outpouring for the people that are the victims, those who lost their lives, those who lost their homes. I'm with Mission Granbury, and we have been inundated today with people offering help. But we're here for a happy occasion this evening, and so I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Aaron. Where do you go?
Right here.
I'll take it right. Aaron does a superb job with our parks, and he has the pleasure of introducing our special guest. Aaron?
Well, thank y'all for showing up. Like you said, we hope for a larger crowd, but I think we can, make good use of this time. And I just want to introduce Young Curtis. He's with Skatepark, and this is what these guys do for a living: is design and build skate parks. And he's going to show you some things. And I know it changed my image of a skate park. I'm not a skater. You can probably tell that by looking at me. But the image I had of a skate park was a slab of concrete, really, with some ramps and things. But he's going to go through some slides that is really, to me, it's really art, beautiful art. And they incorporate landscaping and the surrounding community into these projects, and you can tell it really got their hearts into what they do. And he's a skater, by the way. You skate?
I skate.
I asked you,
Thank you, too.
If you didn't skate, you weren't out the door. Remember, I asked you before you came in.
Yes.
So all the kids are here as we skaters. So I'm going to turn it over to Jan, and he's going to go through the process, and we're going to find out what you guys really want in a skate park here in Granbury.
Okay, well, I was telling you, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about a skate park here in Granbury. I know you guys have been ready for quite some time. So we don't have as many people as we had thought, but I was telling Aaron earlier that that's not necessarily bad. We can get a lot more intimate here with a smaller group, and I think we've pretty much covered the age groups. I can see that already. So I think we'll get a really good cross-section of what we're wanting to do here. So let me first start by telling you what we're going to do today. So we've gone through the introductions, project overview, Skate Parks 101. That's a presentation where I show you where skate parks are these days, what they look like. Like Aaron said, a lot of people have this perception about what a skate park is as being a graffiti ramp behind a dumpster with a bunch of bad stuff happening, and that's no longer the case. So we want to try and get everybody here everybody who couldn't come here tonight. You guys are going to be the stewards to tell them, hey, this is what we're thinking about. So you can go out to the community and tell them otherwise.
Hey, don't forget to bring kids with skate, like I want to say. My mom skates.
You want this? Then I'm going to go through some skate park examples, just to get the brain turning. Again, just to give you some ideas. You might have looked at the poster here and say, oh, I want exactly that, that, and that. Well,
Do you want to come up?
I'll give you a second. In a little bit. And then we'll do a design workshop. So we may not have enough folks here to do what I was planning on doing with the boards, but we can still incorporate them somehow. It's called a dot matrix exercise, where we put dots on what we want, and we start seeing trends, just by visually seeing where all the dots go. But for now, we need quite a few more people. But I've done plenty of these meetings where I just use a flip chart, and I can break it down into terrain types, and then we can just talk about it real intimately like we are right now. So, my name, if you didn't catch that, was Young Curtis. I'm with Skatepark. I'm here on behalf of New Line Skateparks, who is the designer of Granbury Skate Park. Our company typically builds skate parks, but in this case, we're helping them out. We work closely together, and we have done so for years, so it's a good relationship we have. So what is this skate park all about? Well, let's start off real basic style and say that the City of Granbury has approved the development of a modern site-built concrete skate park. And that sounds pretty straightforward, but I want to highlight a couple of words. Modern, site-built, so this is not something that you guys are going to pick out of a catalog and we're going to bolt together on a slab of concrete. Those days are done. Concrete, of course, everything is built on-site. An open space within Granbury City Park has been identified for construction of the facility. So we've got a jump start on things. A lot of times, my first meeting is talking with the city and saying, okay, we've identified 10 locations. Let's talk about which one we should highlight as we want to go forward with. So the site is incredible. I'll show you here in a few seconds where that is if you're not familiar already. But you know, not having helped the city, they've done a good job, a great job of identifying a really good spot for the skate park. The park is intended to provide socializing and casual recreation opportunities for Granbury youth and families. So it's not all about skating. We want it to be just a really nice public park. So if someone doesn't skate or bike or inline skate or use a scooter, they're not there just because they want to be. It's going to be a nice place to be. So here it is, location. This is Granbury City Park. You can see the parking lot there. Just to the right of the red outlined shape is a ditch. We have baseball diamonds, if I'm correct in saying that. Parking lot here, and right up in here is the disc golf course. So we got a lot of passive action, a lot of pedestrians, a lot of users, to where it's just going to be good. It's not, you know, how I refer to putting a skate park behind a dumpster. This is the exact opposite. So it's going to be very active space, and the skate park is just going to be one component of many others, which is what exactly it should be. Skateboarders obviously don't want to be thought of themselves in a separate area in a chain link fence with barbed wire. They want to be a part of it just like everybody else. So here's the skate park development journey. We're in phase one, obviously, the first step with a workshop. So what I'm going to do here today, obviously, is to get y'all's input on what you want to see. We do not have a design or any inclination as to what you guys want yet. So when I say we're getting your input, that really is the case. We are not just giving lip service to it. So you guys tell us what you want. We take it back to our offices, come back for detailed design. Oops. Right here, we make sure we're within budget, make sure we have our parameters, everything else is sorted out. Phase 3 is obviously construction, so it goes out to bid for construction, and then phase 4, of course, is ride the park and have fun. Skateboarding 101. Okay, so some of you skaters here might think this is a little basic, so, but I do think it's important because, again, you're going to have to go out to the community and say, hey, you know, this is how much we have right now, let's do as much as we can for it. We may want this to be a bigger park eventually. If that's the case, you guys have to tell everybody else what happened here tonight. Skateboarding is a diverse activity with over 50 years of rich history. And I'm going to go through the decades and the cycles of skateboarding here in a little bit. Skateboarding is a legitimate competitive sport for amateur and professional athletes. So there are people that make a living more than ever on skateboarding. And it's just now getting to the point where, you know, some of these folks are millionaires and they're getting tickets skating around town, doing what they're making money at. Skateboarding is a large industry with a solid foundation. Lots of money goes into this industry. Skate parks is one thing, but obviously shoes, clothes, parts, boards, just a lifestyle in general. It's a dynamic recreation activity with millions of participants worldwide. And skateboarding is an exciting lifestyle that extends beyond the act of skateboarding itself. So a lot of folks, I think, in here would say skateboarding isn't really a sport, right? It's more than that. I'm not going to read through all this, but what I'm going to highlight is just some of the waves or cycles in skateboarding. Many people don't know this. Even before I got into all this, I wasn't too sure. I just enjoyed skating. First wave was in the 1960s, and essentially a skateboard at the time was a toy, a really dangerous toy, actually. So dangerous that in 1965 a national ban was placed on skateboarding, and it kind of went underground a little bit. So not developed at all, but it was the first run at it. So give them credit.
Skateboards are hard to ride.
They're really hard. Second wave, 1970s. This was the invention of the urethane wheel. If you've seen some of the movies that have come out in the past 10 years, it's kind of the era they're talking about. Let's see. Private skateboard parks were open. Again, a lot of miscommunication. There wasn't education there about what liability it had to have a skateboard park, so it kind of went down underground again. Third wave is the freestyle skating ramps, kind of like what you see here. the big twist, Tony Hawk, all that stuff. So from this point on, skateboarding began a process of reinventing itself, and it kind of changed from that ramp style skating to more of a street style skating, plaza style terrain, and that's really what we're seeing a lot of today.
What if I show them what the ramps look like?
Why don't you pass it around? And then the way that we're in now is the 1990s to the present, and that's pretty much ingrained culture, ingrained activity in the United States and across the world. So skateboarding as a sport, it is possible to do this as not just a passive activity, but actually a sport. So we have regional levels here. So first of all, local, regional, and national. So for example, a lot of the skate shops, I used to own a skate shop, we would host contests at a really local level, just to build up our awareness, our brands. There's a regional level contest series called the Rap Tour, and that's based out of Texas, but it sort of goes into Oklahoma, Louisiana, and that's gaining quite a bit of popularity, and I would like to bring that here to Granbury once we get this thing in the ground. And then national level contests, there's quite a few with Tampa Am, there's quite a big X Games, Dew Tour, and the like. Professional skateboarding today. Most of the world's top pros are American. I'm sure that's not too big of a surprise. We got some local people here from Texas, Jake Nunn, Sam Rayburn, Cody McIntyre. I'm sure I'm missing a couple others there. World Cup skateboarding has been sanctioned professional contest and setting judging standards for over a decade. So that's some of the contests and tours that I've been talking about, X Games for Happy Games. And then there's a big push towards Olympics by 2016. I kind of did this a while back, and I don't think it's going to happen for 2016. There's a lot that goes into sanctioning for a new event, but you kind of see where the Olympics are going. They're kind of dropping some of the more traditional sports and adding some of the board sports like they did in the Winter Olympics with snowboarding. So we have 10 plus million skateboarders in North America, and again, this is from quite a few years ago, and I would expect that to have gone up by a couple by now at least. 78% of skateboarders identify themselves as street skaters. So I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here and say that in Texas in particular, and even in this part of the state, we're seeing about an 80-20 split. And what I mean by that is 80% kind of street plaza, and about 20% bowl and transitional. So something to think about. I could be completely off here, but we'll find out in a little bit. Action sports have been the fastest growing area of youth recreation over the last decade. I don't think that's any surprise, but to have them in riding kind of is an eye-opener for me. So participants are between the age of 3 and 57. Commonly we're at 5 and 24, and I'd say 11 and 19 is pretty much the focus group.
Oh, and 6.
And 6. So I started out owning a skateboard park, a private one. People would pay daily rates to get in, and we had a group of folks, in their 40s and 50s even, and they called it the church group. And they'd show up, mid-morning on Sundays, and that's when they did their skating when it was the quietest at the skate park. So there are a few barriers to participation, obviously. Unlike a lot of traditional sports like football, soccer, you name it, you need a team, you need equipment, you need user fees, you need facilities, and you can't just run up and have a game of 22 soccer players without organizing that first. So skate park is kind of the opposite. Very few barriers to entry. Very affordable. Essentially all you need is a board and a pair of shoes, and you're off to the races. Don't have to join a team. It can be done almost any time, anywhere, and self-progressing. Oops. There we go. So where are the current skateboarding opportunities? Well, there's that whole saying about if you don't have a skate park in your city is the skate park. Many of you might have heard about that before. It's really cliche to say, but it still holds true. So I've heard that you got some skaters that are even going down this boardwalk here, jumping across the grass gaps in the front parking lot. But you ask yourself, it's not a problem to me, it's an opportunity. So your city has identified this as a good thing to do.
Actually, we can't skate it.
So yeah, existing skate parks where you can skate, but we don't have any around here. Where are the existing skate spots in town? Can anyone tell me? Downtown, courthouse steps, anything like that? Is there a loading gap?
Nobody wants to.
No one wants to give it up?
On Wednesday night, I've got a bunch of modular stuff that I set up at my church.
Okay,
So a bunch of
Usually, but
Yeah.
there's some on there.
okay. Okay, local businesses are spending a lot of money to stop people from skateboarding, and I guess I can see that. Some of these pictures here are skate stoppers. No one wants to get injured. No one wants to have people injured on their property and then therefore get sued. So that's a valid concern. Young people are having confrontations with police and security, and then safety of skaters and general public are always an issue. So that's kind of the educational portion of it, and now we're going to get into what a modern-day skate park is. So it's a legitimate place for people to recreate and socialize. A venue for competitive riders to practice and compete, sure. A collection of great skate spots. So a skate park isn't just a hodgepodge of different features. It can be, if it's placed in a correct arrangement. But what we like to do is, ask you guys, you've seen the videos, you've seen the magazines, what is your favorite skate spot that you've seen in the world? And we could replicate that here and give it a Granbury twist. And then, this is also going to be a venue for career skaters to do their job. A lot of the professional skateboarders who make money and who have become successful are not from LA, Houston, or anything like that. They're from small towns. So skate park users prefer a wide variety of terrain. So I've already kind of touched on these three boards on the left-hand side are all different terrain types. There are many different types and sizes of skate parks, so I'm going to break those down. Street skating, of course, is very popular, probably the most popular. Park skating is a little different. It's more of the pyramids, quarter pipes, stuff that you would see maybe in the 90s for those skaters in here. Bowl skating, obviously the transition, empty swimming pools, and the like. Freestyle and downhill, kind of longboarders, not so much. You might have it here more than other places because there are some hills. Inline skating, biking, BMX. So this park, I want to say, is going to be for not only skateboarding, but bikes and inline skates and pretty much anything with wheels. So we're going to take that into consideration when we design. So we have to be cognizant about how we're designing things. So yeah, I kind of went through this just now. So the three types, and those are identified here on the boards: real street, which is exactly what we find in the street environment, like downtown. Rails, stairs, gaps, ledges. Obstacle park would be more man-made terrain, like fun boxes, hips, quarter pipes, pyramids, and then transition or bowl is obviously going to be your half pipes and bowls and things like that. So this is kind of a breakdown. This is not like out of a textbook, but what we tried to do is kind of break it down into different sizes. So a skate park is many sizes, and let me first say this, that the biggest skate park is probably not your best skate park. And if you have the biggest skate park this week, you probably won't next week. So I want to tell you that what we want to do here is look for quality, not quantity. Mini parks or skate spots are typically under 6,000 square feet. And I'm kind of talking about a footprint here. A lot of our designs you'll see will have landscaping in the middle, and it breaks it up. It's not a big square of concrete. So 6,000 or less would be a mini skate spot. A neighborhood park, 6,000 to 12,000. Community, 12 to 25. Regional, 25 to 40. Destination, 40,000 plus. So we just finished one in McKinney, Texas. That's 30,000 square feet. So that's definitely the regional type category. There's one in Spring, Texas, outside of Houston. That's going to be something like 70,000 square feet. So that's a destination park for sure. The reason why I'm kind of bringing this up is cities now are not talking about one skate park. They're sometimes talking about doing master plans for skate parks. So we have this one now. But what about in the future? Where's the next one going to be to where people, if they can't get to this one easily, they can come to the new one? I want to get the gears turning on this. A lot of that has to do with where the skate park is going to be placed, but I can tell you now, like I said earlier, where the skate park is going to be is a great location. So, here comes the cool part. Modern day skate parks. What do you think? This is what a lot of people think a skate park is, like I was talking about. Well, what do you think about stuff like this?
Oh my.
This is in Winnipeg, Manitoba. New Line Skate Parks is out of Canada, so I'm going to show you quite a few skate parks from Canada. So we might not know where they are, but these are real. This is a destination park. It's massive. It's in the middle of downtown. It was at one point the intersection of a train crossing where they had it was the center of the attention in this town. But if someone who didn't know what a skate park was, or even if they did, you can look through this vista here and say, well, it's a Plaza Skate. It's great. I'd like to have lunch there. But then when you get a little further into it, you can see just how intricate and nice it is and what kind of skate terrain's in there. And this is obviously a huge park here. And but again, it's quality. So just because this is 2 acres, 3 acres, it's the same kind of quality we want to bring here. A lot of different colors, a lot of different materials. Got some marble here in the middle. Every edge is detailed with metal to protect itself. Obviously a lot of vegetation. This is called the Magic Carpet. So like I said, this whole skate park used to be in a place where railroads were a railroad-based train station. So what they did is they said, well, what about if we took a rail and we whipped it up like this? And that's what you have. So not only does it look cool, there's lights underneath it, it's also skatable. It's a feature. Here's another piece of artwork that's also skatable.
What's that reference?
It actually references a fish that used to be in the river that's now extinct. So they, all this art that we're going through here, this is just an installation where local artists would put in their artwork and then they would change it out every month or two. I think they had an actual art division that kind of monitored and updated all that stuff. So not only can we do a lot of concrete stuff, but we can also do a lot of art and just bring other things in. Because again, this is all a public space. We don't want to make it for skateboarding only. Obviously, we want the best skate terrain we can do, but we want people to just hang out. We have a massive bowl here, big overburr pocket. These bricks here were original bricks in the area that were reused. And this is opening day. And this is still opening day. But my favorite picture in this whole presentation is this right here. And we got an older couple who, you might call them bird watchers, but they're probably here for their grandson or friends. And they're safely sitting in the park, enjoying themselves, watching skaters skate. So a little closer to home, we got Casimir Ski Wheels Sports Plaza in Conroe. Who's been to this one? Anybody? No? It's just down 45 on the way down to Houston. Let me show you some photos here. It cut right through the middle of piney woods. It was really nice. Shade. Obviously natural there. Didn't have to cut down too many trees. In fact, because of the drought, some of those trees were dying anyway and were unsafe, so we had to cut them down anyway. But their themes here, Conroe was founded on sawmill and the subsequent rail. So we kind of detailed it with, a saw ledge, a pump jack you might find on the rail system. And just here's some vistas of that. It's about 12,000 square feet. So a third of an acre-ish?
12 feet long.
Yeah. That hole, the keyhole, is also what we call a train hole. So you can stand at one end of the skate park and look to the 300 feet at the very distance and see right through that hole. Portland, Oregon. Portland was very big into keeping all the rainwater collected and not putting it all through the drainage system, so they're very green conscious. This program here was developed by a local kid who wanted to help to design a skate park, and this is called Tread Lightly. And And it's basically the juxtaposition of the hard surface and the natural. So you can see some examples here. And these are all biofiltration systems. So water is collected in these sand filters and then just put right back into the ground instead of dumping it into the sewer system. Here's a water droplet. And then tread lightly. And just some more vistas through the skate park. So, one thing I wanted to bring up here is a lot of people have been saying, oh, we want a massive bowl here at the skate park in Granbury. We're going to get into the exercise here in a little bit with what we want to see in a skate park, but we don't have a budget to do everything. So we are going to have to be very cautious about, not going too far, because I hate to overpromise and underdeliver. So we have about $250,000 to do this with, which is plenty. And when we get through some more examples here, I'm going to show you, hey, this is about what we're looking at. And I'll bring that up now because this isn't a bowl, but it does have some good transitional terrain here. So even though we don't have a massive bowl, we have to dig out and put drains in and spend all this money, we do have a nice mini ramp. And the mini ramp can be in all shapes and sizes and heights and everything else. So I want to just kind of bring that up as a potential input item here in a little bit. Cedar Park, Texas, Brushy Creek Skate Park, we did it in 2009. Very circular, obviously. Lots of color, lots of landscaping. Fits right in. This is a perfect example of us being given a space that's totally irregular. Many things probably couldn't fit in there, but they said, hey, this is all we got. What can you do with it? Disc golf course, wrapping around all here in the front, all these sports fields in the back, really active park, and this just nestled in right there perfectly. Kind of a takeoff on that magic carpet we saw earlier. Call that a volcano. There's a little drain in the middle, but everyone seems to like that a lot. So I'm gonna start rattling through here now. I want to get to the juice of this whole thing and let y'all tell me what you want. But I'm hoping this is kind of opening your eyes to some of the things that we can do for you. This is a good example because it has a really good theme to it. So think about themes for Granbury too. We have Comanche Peak. We have a lot of rocks here, a lot of hills. We have Granbury Lake. What are some other things? Get those wheels turning too. This is in Canada again. This is a Olympic training facility. And what the whole theme of this is when you start to skate, you're kind of rough around the edges. You need to start training. And that's where this is. So it was kind of rougher here. We've got these boulders that are shaped into to skate ramps. And then as you progress, you get further and further refined until you get up to close to the building here, and you have all these really nice clean lines, clean ledges. So by the time you made it over the right side to the left side into the building, you progressed to be a professional skateboarder, maybe at Olympic level. They have a big problem with weather in the wintertime, obviously snow. So they did this massive covered awning here above the bowls. That can be said for here with sun. So there is a big tree there that's going to provide a lot of natural shade. I don't think we want to put money into shade now because it will certainly take away from the budget of the skate park. So we can be creative. These are things that we can raise money for later on after the fact. But there is a tree there that provides a lot of shade. So it's not like we're out in the middle of nowhere here. And actually this is a good one too. This is about what we're looking at here for a rough example. So not the bowl and not this skate path here, but pretty much this street area here was about 6,000 square feet if I remember right. That's the kind of thing we're talking about here, and here's some photos of it. This is in the hill country, so a lot of patchwork quilting, so that's the kind of themes we have here. Little trellis shade structure. A Maloof money cup ramp is what we call that. It was on TV right before we designed it. Ruben Pierre in Odessa. I'll quickly go through this one. Way out in West Texas. Sorry guys, let me get to these couple here. I should organize this a bit better. Here we go. Alvin, Texas. Exact same budget, $250,000 design build. So this was an existing pathway, and this was an existing pathway. And what we did is we said, well, let's connect these to where people can skate them or walk right through them. And this is in the middle of downtown, prized land. It's got a lot of attention, a lot of heat about not doing it here. But what we did is we all got in a van, traveled around town, and had a list of points and point scale. And this site clearly won, and they're really happy they did it here. So here's a couple of shots of that one. But this is very low terrain, plaza styled, input is what we got. And there's that mini ramp complex that I talked about. That's my brother. Beeville, again, this is roughly $200,000. They're close to the coast. They have a lot of longboarders, and they said, well, we want to have like a skate path to where we can start at the top here and just start at the top here, go all the way down and keep the speed and just be able to do this all day long. Or the street guys can just go back and forth and hit all these obstacles here. So here's a couple of shots of that. All right, well, I'll leave it with that. I can go on forever, but I feel like we want to get to this bit here, which is what we're here for anyway. Do you think we could turn the lights up a little bit? Thanks. I guess all the skaters, if y'all want to get a little closer, just get in the front areas here. I'll bring this thing up a little bit. And this is where we might lose some non-skaters as far as terminology goes. But we're going to get down to the bits and pieces about what terrain types and features we want. And we'll get to it. So I'm going to turn this mic off here for now.
So yeah, what's going to do that? But like I was saying earlier, I don't think enough people to really start seeing trends. So I think just thinking, general consensus, what are we talking about here? Plaza style terrain street or transitional and bold? So raise your hand for street, transitional, or street and plaza type stuff. Okay? Bold's transition? Okay. Wow, 50-50.
If I could say,
Yeah.
we had meeting a couple other guys here at work at, skate. So they would be sort of the skate center.
Okay.
Hey, last one's left.
Cool.
Yeah.
But just, Granbury has kind of, big, rich history of the past. And of course, they look to the future too. And I think a combination of both, because, the trend in skateboarding has been, like street skating mainly, but it's going back to the old style too. And there's a lot of people here that I've probably got about 5 or 6 proxy votes of older guys who've got kids that couldn't make it, because of all that's been going on, but around town or whatever. But something in between, something where there is a bowl, there's some, mini ramps, half pipe, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But also, there's also a large group of guys that longboard, something that maybe kind of like that, where you bring it all together. Kind of the past and the future, because I think regardless of how it's set up, anybody on the bike, anybody on a scooter, longboard, skateboard can use the terrain to its fullest. I mean, if you had a little bit of everything, but I think you should go to the plaza, even though that's the main thing. Now, if you had all those elements in there, a little bit of everything, that'd probably be the best here, because there are certainly all kinds of styles. Like when I worked at the Weatherford store, there was all strictly street skate. There was nobody that rode a longboard. Here, we had to start carrying longboards because people asked for them.
Yeah.
Because they've got hills, they've got places, and unfortunately, if you're longboarding in the wrong direction, you're in the wrong place, you might have a cop behind you with the laser, put a laser on you and hit you, you're speeding, and that's happened on several occasions. But, and I understand that they can't have people go to certain spots, and,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're saying, I understand, I'm not pushing for plaza. Like,
Right,
honestly,
right.
it is what you guys are doing.
we do need that
But
too.
I
We
was-
need a little bit of that too.
We'll be here for sure. What you're telling me is don't forget about the other guys.
Right.
But what we can't do right now, I can tell you, is do a plaza section and a big old bowl. We just can't do it. We don't have the money. What we can do, and I'm glad we're talking about this real, like, conversationally, because we do have bigger plans. The city would like to see us come back with a bigger concept, and we'll identify a phase one. So that phase one, I think, can have, both plaza and transitional elements, but maybe a phase two would be a full-on bowl, right? I mean, we only have $250,000, a bowl might cost that or more. So that's what I'm dealing with here. But to your point, we don't need to exclude anybody from the phase one. We can do transitional stuff just like anything else.
The guys that I spoke about, Robert, I spoke with the guys sitting out there with me here tonight. A key word was flow.
Sure.
Just have a flow through, a nice flow through with street elements, but also have, opportunity to flow through the whole park. You don't necessarily have to have a pool, a roll.
You just go through their car and ride through it. You don't even have to hit any elements. You don't even do that.
Right.
Any elements, you just.
So did y'all have a Vivo one and
Yeah.
stuff like that?
It had the same room to the back and all the street elements.
I like it.
Hey, John, I think back to interrupt.
Yeah.
Back there.
I agree with the flow thing, but I'm the kind of guy that, I want to fly set and I can just skate that all day, just.
We're gonna have stairs. I know what you're saying. There are some staples that we just can't deviate from. We need a rail, we need a couple of rails, we need ledges, stuff like that. We're gonna get into different types. There's plenty of different types of that stuff that we're about to go through. So you're about to spitball to me here in a minute. I'm gonna write it all down. Sure.
Like they were saying with the flow, I really like that. But the stairs and everything that, but hubbas and also letters.
Okay.
How about something I look forward to as well?
Okay. Well, how about this?
Well, there was a letter sent to Karen Shawn here from a guy. If I read it, it kind of sums up from this you're talking about. My name is Jeff Berryman, and I'm sending this letter to Karen Shawn, which I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Lujan. Concerning the skate park construction in Granbury. I first wanted to thank considering building a skate park here in our community. Skateboarding has been very important to me for most of my life. I'm 38 years old and have lived in Granbury for 15 years. I'm a teacher at Granbury Middle School and see my teaching job as an opportunity to give back to a community that has done so much for me and my family for the years I've lived here. In regards to the skate park construction, I hope you consider all of us old guys in the design. This basically means that the park needs to be someplace where we can actually ride our skateboards. The park needs to have a flow. Most of us old guys won't be flinging our bodies downstairs or rails. We won't be trying to do the latest flippy trick or off benches. I hope the park won't be the latest in the modular design, but will have contour and lots of cement for riding and flowing. Ditches, pools, banks, transition, have my vote. This kind of park will be most attractive to guys like me. If I were a city official, I would want to attract the old guys and the young guys both. There's nothing wrong with having a little maturity at the skate park. A skate park gives me another opportunity outside the classroom to positively impact the lives of some of my students. So,
Pretty much sums up what we're talking about. Sure.
Yeah, I guess, I'm originally from Birmingham, so skate scene is a little bit there.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm noticing, kind of like, city-built skate parks, sometimes the thing that they fail to do is create lines. So like, you set up for a trick, you do your trick, you land your trick, and then there's nothing else to like do after that.
Yeah.
So,
That's part of the flow, the
Yeah.
proper amount of space for run up and landing and everything else if we're doing the street stuff.
I want to be able to ride from that end to that end and that end to that end.
So it sounds like we want flow with the street elements.
Whatever happens in between.
Okay. I think that letter also mentioned ditch. What do we think about maybe a ditch with elements within that ditch? Yeah.
But then you can use almost like a mini ramp or a half pipe. That you could also come from another direction to hit the mountains.
All right. I think we all had a good sense, right? There's different factions, but we can make it work. let's start here at the street closet. So start listing some elements that we just can't do without. Stairs. How many stairs? 5? I can tell you we got about 5 to 7, and we usually land literally at 5 or 6 almost every time. People say, yeah, I'm 14 stairs. No one's gonna do it. You know what I mean? Pros will come here and they'll be like, I'm not doing that. I'm trying tricks on the 6 stair. So am I safe to say 5 to 7 to give us a little leeway on the stair set? Okay. What else was there?
But it's hardly on the stairs.
Rail right down.
Get a little more descriptive on ledges. We're gonna have ledges. So what kind of ledges are we talking about? You wanna have ledges that the stairs go down?
Yeah, but probably something like that.
And the ledge goes out or down?
Diagonally, stuff like that. Yeah, diagonally.
Okay.
And just regular ledges, like, if you're just riding on flat ground, yeah, and then there's just like, sort of like a fun box.
Picnic tables almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
You get all the way up on the ledge, it's wide enough that.
So you're talking maybe like a lower ledge, but maybe wider, like a manual path?
Combination.
Is that what we're talking
Fun
about?
box, anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
not too high though.
Right.
Or actually
Point
needs to
point how tall?
Probably like, right here or something.
Okay, so you can still ollie it up on it? Okay.
I'm good.
It's kind of something for like little beginners too, 'cause not everybody's gonna be able to ollie
Well, the
up
bikes,
18 inches onto something.
the bikes are gonna like to
But
step.
like a little bit.
Do we have, a little combination?
Yeah, like I said, you know, we have two ledges.
What else? Just give me some more. Just write some down here.
Yeah.
I'm keeping this flow in mind too, so we'll get to that in a minute.
You have to go back with the hub.
Hub is kind of like, it's pretty much a ledge.
It's, all right, like when you're walking downstairs and you have like a concrete, like, you know, kind of handrail, but it's real wide and it goes down next to the stairs. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Then do like the rail in the hub.
Yeah. What kind of rails do we want?
Flat rails.
I would say, yeah, probably flat rail.
Just a flat rail on the ground?
One
Or
that
one
goes
down the stairs?
Yeah, one down the stairs also.
Okay.
One down the stairs, more easy way to slide.
Yeah, because it's hard to, it's not
What else?
Where they have jewelry ground.
I mean, you know, a lot of the time, you can combine several things into one set of stairs. You can get everything you want
Yeah.
in that, and then save money because it's all in that one.
Yeah,
feature.
I mean, it's not gonna, you guys are telling me one thing, we can combine it into like a feature into itself, like ledge, rail, 2 hubbas, Euro gap or step up. You guys want one of those? You know? Maybe we have a big bank, but one part of the bank is stairs, the next part of the bank, the other side is just a flat bank, so you can roll up and down it, because we need to be able to keep that flow.
I'm saying some along the lines of one of the banks.
down.
Down.
And
Up and down.
Like that big, long one.
Did y'all do the one in Corpus Christi by the beach?
We didn't, but I've been there, so I know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, you know that bowl that there that everybody rides, it has like everything in it, nearly. That was real, I'm not talking the big bowl, but I'm talking about the main little feature.
Yeah.
You guys know what a Euro gap is, or London gap? Are we wanting that? I always like them. Basically what it is you start at the bottom section, you roll up the bank, and there's basically a gap that you have to jump over all the other.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really popular in other places. Okay, I'm a big fan. Are we feeling good here?
I mean, do we want to get a little more creative? Maybe what we'll do is I do have some forms that I want you guys to fill out, get like really into it, and do some drawings on it and stuff. So if there's a feature that you guys want, you can actually draw it out for me and I'll take it back. But,
Like, even in the street area, with the banks, those areas, the old Granbury, right? Some quarters, before and after.
Okay. So we're feeling confident here, so we can move on to transition.
Sure. I was gonna, like, the really cool thing in Georgia, they have when you're coming up, they have a curve, just like a curved, kind of like half pipe coming out of the ground. But on one side of it, it's kind of flat and angled, so you can like launch off of it or do a trick and come back down.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Like a big, maybe even suspended.
Yeah, like a quarter, and then like next to it is like, connected to it is like a flat angle like that. So you can
Basically like that.
Oh, so it's like two
Next to each other?
yeah, so there's two, it's like two parts next to each other, it's just formed into one piece.
And they're both wide enough to where you can do a flip trick or whatever and come
Yeah.
back, right? Okay. Okay, these are good here. All right, well, let's get into transition then. So, like I said, I think, just based on my experience with skate parks, we want to keep flow, we want to have transition. We'll put a bowl in the design, so that's where we get, we'll talk about it now, but it might not be a first phase. So what kind of transition do we want in the first phase?
Small.
Do we like the mini ramp idea?
I think some mini ramp would be happy.
Mini ramp idea at least, right?
Yeah, maybe right, so it would be like,
Five or
say,
six.
drop in, go into
About,
like.
yeah, 4 to 6 feet is typical.
I'd say anywhere every next to some kind of incline, some kind of small little ledge. Volcano. What about maybe a 30 radius?
What was that, we tried to 5 feet?
6 foot.
5 to 6 feet. Well, give us some play because we gotta look at where the contours are of this whole thing, and where it's all sliding into and everything.
But, if you're gonna do the mini ramp or quarter pipe or something like that, have it to where it's wide enough to where, you don't want
Oh, yeah.
12 foot like
No,
back
no.
in the old day. You want something where,
This isn't gonna be a plywood mini ramp. We're gonna
Right.
make it 20 feet long or whatever it is.
right, it's gotta be enough that
Yeah.
you ride back and forth, and maybe 2 people can be on it at the same time.
Yeah, the mini comes in the 5 foot part, not the width wise.
You're talking about skating park course down, it's so little.
I'm talking about the
I make 5 passes on this.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about if you're skating it, that quarter pipe, it's a quarter pipe going from here to there. You can skate and go all around, just almost like you're in a bowl. And you can, if you wanted to grind 12 foot of it,
Right.
you can start over here, hit it 6 foot away, you can grind 12 foot, and then come down and not worry about falling off the edge.
I really like this idea. It's a good, and it mixes everything. It keeps the flow because these are good return walls. So you end up, start over here, wherever that is, come up here, just go right back into a flip trick for all the street skaters.
And on the end of it, I mean, you need to make a part where you put like a wall right,
Yeah.
also put like a flat back against it, so, I mean, if somebody wants that, wherever they want to launch off the end of it, they do that.
Yeah.
Basically, what you're talking about is just where 2 different ramps meet each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, yeah, that's picture. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and that's a good idea right there, because what you're wanting to do is if you want to go up this bigger ramp, hit it, and then do a trick and land on the other one, you can come down seamlessly. Or grind it, or whatever.
What do you guys have to say? You're getting quiet. Have you had your say or what? Fun box? Go on the other side. Okay, quarter pipes, maybe for quarter pipes, a quarter pipe is not necessarily a quarter pipe, but it's more about where it's placed. So if you give us the liberty to kind of come back to you and say, hey, we found some good spots, here they are. So to give you a sense of where we're going to be next time, we're going to take this and the forms you're about to fill out and come back with probably a 2D, maybe a 3D concept. So you actually see like scaled what we're talking about. And hopefully we've got it nailed down where move this quarter pipe here and change this rail, and then we'll go to the races and get construction documents going. So I think that I'm getting a good sense here I do this quite a bit, that I think will be pretty much on the mark. But that's what that second meeting will be for.
In the transition, even like you can't do a whole bowl, maybe just like a whole corner. And there's
Something for carving to keep it flow.
Yeah, I think that the flow and the carving and this mini ramp are gonna do just that, It won't be just a straight mini ramp, I don't think. It'll have some turns that allow you to turn and keep on going. So,
Another thing I was thinking would be really nice is, the park has about 2 or 3 entries into it from the sidewalk. A lot of people walk their dogs, that you just walk through there. If those float, like a kid lived on the one end of the neighborhood, he can skate from his house on that sidewalk, make transition right straight in the park, the other guy coming in the other way. And that would almost create the sidewalks as part of the park.
yeah, kind of like that Alvin Park where there was already a trail system and we just kind of extended, made it more accessible. We'll want to do that because for people that are skating to the park or whether you're parking there or whatever it is,
Longboard,
you get off and you want to get on your board and go right through that gate and start it up. So that's, I think that's a deal at this point.
And,
Yeah.
just kind of remind people that, we can't incorporate everything that they're wanting into this first page, that, we are going to try to budget for,
Yeah.
additions to this. So.
Yeah. I even want to talk about the bowl here in a minute, what you guys want to see in the bowl, because we'll bring that back. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I want to introduce myself. I'm Joan Snyder, and I'm on the Parks Board. Jean Kay is in the front, and she's our chairperson of the Parks Board. And we want you to know that we're here listening to what you're saying, and we, as a board, have really been long-term in planning. If you were here 20 years ago, you know that we didn't have the city soccer fields, and we didn't have the nice pool, we didn't have the playground, and we didn't have the wonderful hike and bike trail that we are in the process of expanding even more. So on the skate park, we are looking at the long term. We don't want just a little park build. We want to do phase 1, and we really do want to look at down the road. I have a son who's 25 who begged for a skateboard when he was board park when he was growing up here, and it didn't happen. So we're all committed to this too. And then I also wanted to throw in, just from the Parks Board, from personal opinion, but we have moments in time bike trail, and there are points along it that really tell the history of Granbury. So if there's a way, as you're talking about, the whole bike trail and the sidewalks, and we have the moments in time that park reflects something in the history of Granbury that we can highlight. I liked it when you said Comanche Peak, just the shape of Comanche Peak. If there's a way to incorporate some of the features, because that's just an icon for Granbury, or this part of the shape of the lake and the river, the Brazos River. If there are things like that, that would mean a lot to us, I think.
That's great. That was good. That's obviously a section down here. Anything else, guys? What other themes can we come up with?
A magic carpet with their flag. That'd do it right there.
Aaron was saying there's a lot of rock here, so we might want to take some boulders of rock and place them in spots that allow for seating. We can just kind of, it's here, it's accessible, it's cheap, I think that would be a good addition, so we'll play with that.
Let me ask you another question. How do you guys feel about public art? Do you don't care? No, not graffiti. I mean, just making it be something that's your own and making your mark. How do you feel about that? Yes, no, don't care? That would be cool. We'll write that one down.
I consider this if I could sticky from all day over time, or like there might be little bumps to where it's hardened, where it didn't drip.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't want it on the surface.
No.
No, just, have high.
One on the back of things, like on straight walls and through
Well, I think what we're talking about here, two different things. You guys are talking about spray painting. I don't think we want to do that. What she's talking about is like art installations, right?
Yeah.
So in the middle of the park, you have a big plexiglass, rectangle, and people will put their art in, and you can see it. Like I was talking about earlier, you change that out every so often. No spray paint. Cindy will close it down and do that.
Well, but you know how the one in Seattle that has the real modern permanent installations
Yeah.
on the side?
Yeah.
Something that reflects our culture here.
And also, we have several renowned, world-renowned bronze artists here. in town.
Bronze artists?
Sculptors.
Oh, the skateboarder.
How about shade? Like when it's 100 degrees?
Play the trees.
That's actually.
Yeah,
pretty-
trees are gonna be the way to go. I can,
Even if like you do plant like several trees, as part of the park, to me, or your room. I'm just saying, like, don't put the tree in like the middle of like a planter box and expect people not to walk on it.
yeah, I mean, yeah, every park we do has landscaping of some kind. I think for this one here, the city's willing to come in after the fact and put a few things in. So we'll just be cognizant about what we plant. We're not gonna plant pecan trees in the middle of the skate park. The hell we're trying to.
Yeah, this first phase, we're gonna try to put our money into the park itself, into concrete, into pipe, into the metal, whatever we need to do. And then we're gonna come in and try to do some landscaping around that ourselves.
Yeah.
So we can get all our dollar here for this park itself.
You got a really nice, huge tree right next to the area for shade. I think right now there's a bench there. Maybe we could throw a few more benches under there. So that's your shade for now, which is actually good because a lot of times there is no shade. So we got that as a thing to start with. And then, but to put in shade, like artificial shade structures, costs a lot of money. Go through the budget.
Can I just ask one more thing? And along the vein of the public art, what else would you like to see with this park that makes it feel like it's your home? Instead, I know you're talking about the different elements, the sport elements, but about like, what do you want it to look like? What colors do you want to see? What colors do you not want to see? Benches. Well, I mean, what color? I mean, are we going to do two different colors of concrete? Did you see the one that had it looked like rock?
Yeah.
It looks like rock, but it's flat. Do you like that? Do you not like that? Tell us what kind of aesthetics do you want to see or not
I
see?
would personally like to see some kind of brickwork in the transitions and in some of the street plaza things, because I am so tired of seeing skate parks all over, like the ones you see out in Fort Worth. There's just nothing but pure concrete. It's just plain old gray concrete. I'd like to see some color. I'd like to see some red. I'd like to see some hues of red. Just give me something that gives me eye pleasing.
Like a lot of the stone work we see around town, the square.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually take it for granted at this point because all of our parks have color in it. So, but yeah, you're right. 10 years ago, integral color is what it's called, was never used. And integral color means just that, like there's bags of powder that we throw into the trucks on site. And so at the end of the day, that red or brown or whatever color it is all the way through. So it just lasts forever. So yeah, again, I take it for granted because every park we do, I assure you that there will be color in there. But what kind of colors do we like? You said reds?
Reds, yes. I love urban deco red.
Okay. Are there like colors for Granbury?
There's the pirate colors. There's purple and gold.
I mean, it's up to you guys. We got,
The city colors are green and blue, reflecting nature and water.
That's a hard one for the color concrete.
We should only get like part of it,
Aaron's over here.
The lake is green also.
That's true.
Okay, let's talk about, let's go into bowl here, like full on bowl. Because like I said, we're gonna come back with a bigger concept of what we're actually doing. So we're all gonna like the first phase, then we're gonna try and raise money for the next phase, which may be a bowl or whatever we kind of identified when I come back. So what's the ideal bowl? Maybe you're saying you'd rather have a ditch instead of a bowl, like start shooting some stuff out. Straight lines, curved lines, both, pool coping, no pool coping, tile, no tile.
I think pool coping. That's the biggest one. I like pure lawn, just.
Yeah, and I could tell you with pool coping, I love it, but at the same time, the bikes get on there, can really do some damage. So we want to, this is an all-wheel park, so the last thing we want to have happen is for the city to have to repair much anything. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I kind of like top, but
Top.
because I can hear, of course, when you slide, the towel in there.
Yeah. like kidney shaped, more of a pool shape, 6 to 9 feet, 5 to 7 feet, what, I mean, let's hear it.
5 to 7.
Yeah.
5 to 7 clover shape, deep end and a small one, so it's kind of transition out bottom.
Okay.
Dropping it all the way around the top of the road.
Yeah, it needs to be a road lift for beginners.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll come back with a couple options, how about that? And we can move from there. It's a lot easier to look at something and say, hey, change that or alter this. But keep in mind, this is, that portion of the design is going to be conceptual. So if ever that second phase does come along, it sounds like it will, we'll be able to really get into that.
What would you consider the elements there?
It's pretty deep. I haven't been there in a couple of years, to be honest. I'll be guessing.
Well, it has all kinds of things, heights and
Yeah, that would be more of a that's a bowl, not a pool.
right, flow.
Yeah.
Right, it's kind of like a pool in the way that you can like transition over into another part of it. But it also has, you know, that one corner where you can go, it's almost like a over. Right, yeah, over.
Guys, let me wrap it up here. I've got a really, I know it sounds like we're all over the place, but I can tell you I've got a really good direction of where this is at. So the last thing I'd like for you guys to do is grab a pen out of that box and one of those pieces of paper, fill out those forms, make sure you leave your name and your email address, and the city may contact you or we may contact you. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have one more thing just to ask the kids. If you go like by HEB, when they were doing the construction, there are all these cool borders that they have dug up. And a lot of those are just free, and the city could pick those up, and they could be features in the landscape design. But also with that, I was thinking, what would you think about if at some point we were able to add a natural waterfall and have the sound of running water near your, adjacent to your skate park, or a feature in the skate park?
Yeah.
Rollers are good to film, but waterfalls and like water and skateboarding.
Don't mix. So if it were
Separate.
separate.
But having that urban distance would be great. People in touch.
Is that something that?
Is it okay if he takes this to the skate shop, like, going on next year?
Yeah, but it's like a deadline. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's.
Maybe actually have it to the city by first thing Monday morning.
Yeah, we'll try to do as many people as possible, just.
Well, that's the whole thing. We don't want to do that necessarily because we want to keep this Granbury residents from.
These are out of town today.
Oh, out of town today, yeah. Right.